episode 37 of the podcast. We're going to talk about calm, comfortable, and cooperative, and we're also going to talk about how that relates to counterconditioning and desensitization.
You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Neumeier-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, certified behavior consultant for canines, certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is where grooming and training meet.
This week I had something entirely different planned, but then last night at a grooming appointment, something struck me that I just needed to talk about today. So, my customer's sister was there with her dog who has got a lot of issues, and she was talking about how, I just have the vet do his nails. Right. And I thought about it that's so common for people to think, oh, well, if he wasn't good for the groomer, we'll just go to the vet. But the problem is that the vet's not there to get hurt either. So if your dog has a problem with having their nails done, we need to work on the problem. So there are a couple of things that owners do incorrectly, and I understand why. So let me give you a couple of examples. One is the owner that does the stop, 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 stop. Because if their dog's not comfortable, they'll just have the regular person do it. And in some cases, I think that makes sense. There are definitely times where I'm working with a dog and I'm trying to teach that dog to be good for nails, but that owner may have been at the vet's office and said, "Oh no, wait, because my groomer is actively working on that right now." Right? So there are definitely times where it's like, whoa, stop, because I have somebody else working on that right now. But if it's simply a matter of he looks uncomfortable and we have to all stop. And a lot of owners do that. A lot of owners will stop entirely because they want their dog to trust them. I understand where they're coming from. They're like, no, I want him to trust me. I want him to know I would never ever hurt him. The thing is, though, it does build trust. It teaches the dog that when they feel like something is unsafe, their owners are going to follow through. However, it doesn't teach the dog how to allow you to do things that they thought were scary. It doesn't teach them that it's not scary. It doesn't teach them to be comfortable with it. And that's really important because our dogs are almost like little kids that we have to take care of, and we're going to have to do things for them that they don't understand. It might be that they're out in the woods or something and get hurt and we have to take a look. It might be that they end up with something, something's bleeding and we need to take a look. So we need to set this precedent that hey, calm down, relax again, and then we're going to go ahead and do something, right? And to always do it from a relaxed state and a nice calm, hey, I'm here to help you, baby, but we do need to help you. Because eventually that's really important. It doesn't need to be the first step, but it needs to be an important step. Now, there are other owners who do the no, usually followed by something that's, for groomers super helpful, things like sit. Because, every groomer wants a dog to sit on their table. But but these are owners who are just trying to help their dog. They're trying to keep everything safe, right? They figured no, I'm being stern. I am telling this dog that I need him to knock it off. This is very, very important. But it comes off as more tension. So when we're talking to our owners, we need to kind of figure out which one are they? Are they the stop, everything's okay, I'm not going to do that to you? Or are they the no, we're going to force it because you have to learn this? And I find that the dogs with problems often have owners that fall into either of those extremes, right? The owners who are kind of more baseline, hey, calm down, buddy, let me get that, don't usually have as many problems because their owners are aware that we need to be gentle, we need to be working on it, and we don't need to get upset. So I want you to think about what we do want. And what we want, our ideal, right? The whole purpose is to have a calm, cool, and collected person helping a dog to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative. So let's take a closer look at that. Calm, comfortable, and cooperative for the dogs. That's to help them feel safe, right? We want them in learning mode. When you're calm, you're able to learn. When you're frantic, when you're anxious, when you're scared, those are dogs that are unpredictable. Or maybe very predictable. Like if you know a dog that isn't particularly friendly, that could be very, very predictable. Like, oh, he's scared, just get away from him. But that's when they aren't necessarily in charge of what their body is going to do in response, right? But a calm dog can think to whatever degree any individual can think. But but a calm dog is actively working with you, and we're working on them being comfortable. I'm not saying that if a dog gets scared, we should just keep pressing forward. What I'm saying is if we're always thinking about calm, comfortable, and cooperative, if they become uncomfortable, we return them to comfortable, but not necessarily entirely disengage. We don't just say, oh, never mind. um, Unless something dramatic happened, like, I mean, if you are really worried about becoming injured or a dog getting hurt, then you are way beyond that point. Does that make sense? I want you to think about that. Like, oh, if the dog is like actively trying to injure me, then that's a dog that we probably should have stopped working on and should be working on some much more basic things. Now, sometimes those basic things we don't really think about, right? We're like, oh, what? Some dogs are just like this. But sometimes we do need to go back to basics. If they're not calm coming in, how can we help them be calm, right? I think we've all experienced an owner that gets their dog totally worked up. I remember one customer in particular. This woman would drop her little dog off and was convinced that her dog was a nervous wreck if she wasn't there. And she was a nervous wreck too. And this little dog was entirely a nervous wreck because the way this woman dropped the dog off. Her husband dropped the dog off one day and was like, oh, hey, here's so and so. What time should I come back and pick him up? 3? Great. Okay, bye. And the dog was fine. Same dog. We had never met the husband. We're like, can you drop off every time? Because the dog was actually pretty nice the whole day, because it didn't have that whole, ah, that whole freak out. So when we talk about helping a dog be calm, even from the beginning, sometimes that's going to mean telling an owner, like, okay, look at the way your dog is behaving right now. You want me to put sharp tools next to his face? That doesn't make sense. Like, what are you working on at home? How can I find you the help that you need? Are you willing to give some things a try? If I can give you some stuff to try, are you willing to go to a trainer? But I can't like pick this dog up at eye level, put him on my table, and put sharp objects between us. And so we need to be thinking about like how can we keep these dogs calm? And if they're wound up before they even come in, it's a discussion we need to have. And sometimes it's silly wound up, but that can still be chaos. That can still be an accidental injury, right? So when we are looking for the dogs to be calm, I want you to be feeling and watching for the body being relaxed. It's not simply a matter of not acting up. I want you to feel for relax. And the way I do that is I get my hand on them and just gently kind of sway with them, right? If a body is stiff, you know it. Put your hand on them. Feel for it. Just a little press in, and if they kind of bounce back with you, right? It's almost like slow dancing, right? They kind of are loose with you. That's what we're looking for with relax and calm. Not a dog who is stiff but being still, because I want you to remember that stiff and still is a warning. Stiff and still is a dog that's giving you the eye, like, I cannot believe she's still coming at me. Are you out of your mind? I'm giving you every indication. I'm stiff, I'm staring at you, and my God, she just keeps coming at me, right? We want them to be relaxed. So even if a dog has become frightened, like the owner who says, stop, 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 right? Instead of stopping entirely, like I'm not going to continue on a dog who is totally frightened, but I am going to continue working with the dog. I'm going to help them calm down in my hands, not like let them run off and regroup, right? I don't want dogs to flee. I don't want them to run away from us as soon as they're scared. That's a bigger message, and it's not really helpful for anything that we're doing. I want them to kind of stay with us and kind of think about what we're doing and help them calm down again. Keep in mind that if a dog is a big worry, that you worry that someone's going to really get hurt, this isn't the step that you start with, right? If a dog is willing to hurt somebody, you're going to start at a different step. But this is for the dogs that, are just kind of frightened, kind of afraid, and we're going to help them calm down. But it doesn't mean like, stop, 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 stop. Okay, let go, let go, let go, let go. I'll just have the regular person do him. Or I'll have the vet do him. They bring him in the back room and they always say he's good. Yeah, everybody pause there for a second, because how does that work out? Depends, right? But I want you to think about, if we hold on and help that dog be calm, even if it's just a matter of touching the foot again and not picking up the tool, but helping them be calm and start thinking about, like, okay, let's take a look. Will you let me take a look? Will you let me see? Um, that's how we're going to help these dogs be calm, comfortable, and cooperative. Because once you're calm and you're comfortable, right? The body's loose, the body's relaxed. Someone's taking the time and effort to build your trust, to work with you. Like, it's a little bit of a give and take, right? We have to work with them too. Like, all right, I'm here helping you out. When we start getting to that, they can't help but be more comfortable with it, right? And really, at the core, I gotta say, this is what so much other training is. It's just, so if you remember these 3 C's and you start thinking about them, then we don't need to focus as much on things like counterconditioning and desensitization, because we're kind of doing all of those things without putting the tech talk label on it and adding the extra work. Not that it's all extra work, but sometimes going back to basics works better, to be much more base with these dogs. Like, all right, let's just pull it back a little and just try to work with them before we initiate some sort of a larger training plan or protocol. So in the next part, we're going to talk even more about that. If you're enjoying my podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. One of the things that I hear trainers talking a lot about and groomers talking a lot about is counterconditioning and desensitization. So I want to get into that a bit here, because I think that for many groomers, it's kind of confusing or feels overwhelming. But counterconditioning is taking something that a dog isn't certain about or is worried about and teaching them that it's pleasant, that they like it. There's a problem with grooming where I think there are a lot of things that dogs aren't going to like. The fact is that I just don't imagine any dog is going to be like, oh, I can't wait for that dryer to be next to my ear, right? But it doesn't have to be scary. I think that it's a lot like us going to the dentist, right? There are just some things in this world that you're like, oh, I don't want to. But we can still take something that they thought was scary and make it a non-issue. So that's what counter-conditioning is. And there are a couple of ways to do that. One of the ways that you can do that is to add something pleasant. So that's where sometimes people are using food to, like, here's something delicious to eat while we do that, while people are touching your feet. That's a pretty common one. Like, okay, you can lick some peanut butter while people are doing your nails. So that's to help a dog think, oh, nail trim is fun peanut butter time, right? We've talked before, though, in a grooming setting, treats can be hard to use. So I don't want you to have to rely on that process in a grooming setting. It definitely has its place, and often that's going to be something that owners work on their own, or work with a trainer, or you make up an appointment where you're working on it when there's no other dogs around, right? Where you're just going to work on that and do it as a training visit, right? So I want you to think about, if we have food and we're helping them be relaxed about it and we're teaching them that this is okay, that's one way to do it. And use of food in that respect isn't necessarily about an action marked and then rewarded. That's more about, here's some food, go ahead and eat while we do something. So that's classical conditioning, where they're enjoying food and it's being paired with something that they had previously thought was unpleasant, right? I know it sounds so simple, but for many, many dogs, it's not the right choice for them. There are a lot of dogs who aren't going to take treats in a grooming shop. And there are a lot of dogs that are so worked up about something in particular that treats aren't going to be the thing that helps them relax. Treats aren't going to work for that for some dogs, which is part of why we always talk about dogs as an individual. What does this individual respond to? What does he like? What does he dislike? When do things happen? How do things happen? How long has it been happening? Right? Because every dog is different. So, counter conditioning, teaching them that something that they thought was scary is not. All right. Now, desensitization is when we gradually and slowly build up the behavior we want around whatever it is that they thought was scary. So, desensitization, a human example of desensitization, if a little kid was afraid of bees, we wouldn't just walk them over to the hive and just work at the hive. Like, come on, there are lots of bees here. Like you could see how that would be terrifying and overwhelming. What we would do is start off maybe just observing a bee behind glass, right? We're at the window and there's a bee outside and there's protection there that a kid understands. Now, with dogs, what we do is we help them feel safe and gradually build the skills that we want, right? So I want you to think about times where somebody tells you their dog's afraid of nail trims. Okay, I get that a lot. Like, my dog is afraid of nail trims because this is kind of my specialty. I do like the dogs who are nervous for grooming, right? So when I hear that, I backtrack to find out what specifically the dog is worried about. Where does the dog get worried? Is it when I reach for their paw? Is it when I reach toward their leg? Is it when I hold their paw and the tool? Right? Every dog's a little bit different in the thing that worries them. But if I want to gradually help them desensitize, help them feel like this is okay, we're building confidence, right? Then I would just gently work on each of those steps. Now, this is where calm, comfortable, and cooperative come in. Part of why I use the terms calm, comfortable, and cooperative is because it really is taking care of counter conditioning and desensitization. Because if we're helping the dog be calm all the time, we're not taking that 2 steps too far, right? We're automatically kind of keeping it small and keeping it contained and helping them be comfortable with the whole process. We're keeping them in their comfort zone and expanding out on it, which is what desensitization is. We're helping them feel like it's comfortable and it's safe, which is what counter conditioning is. But it's for many, many people, the technical terms freak them out. I know, tech talk, right? Freak them out. A lot of people are really intimidated by things like counter conditioning and desensitization. They find it overwhelming. They're convinced that it's going to be so much harder than it really is. Or they just add treats and they're kind of thinking that that's helping. Now, just adding treats doesn't necessarily do anything. Plenty of times that I've seen a dog who's totally freaked out and people are adding treats and the dog's just not taking them, right? And you just watch from the side like, oh, hey, let me help you with that. Please, please let me help you with that. That's not helping at all, right? Or they're giving treats while the dog is doing the exact thing they don't want them to do, right? So now you have a dog who is being freaked out, being upset, stressed out, swirling, twirling, trying to bite at the groomer, and being given treats as a distraction, right? That's not counter conditioning or desensitization. Treats as a distraction, I can understand in an emergency as a safety thing. Like, okay, it's an emergency. I just need to, how about you look over here for a second? But in general, treats can be misused really easily because what you're actually doing is just adding food to a problem that might accidentally be encouraging it, but certainly isn't helping. So if a dog is continuing to be restless, if a dog is continuing to go after the groomer, and you're trying to like distract him with treats, come here, here's a cookie, and the dog is growling, the dog is sneering, that's not helpful at all. But it often gets done under the guise of, I was trying to do counter conditioning and desensitization. So when I talk about calm, comfortable, and cooperative, It's because I find that that's easier for people to figure out. That's easier for people to understand. It's easier for people to try at home because many of us are going to communicate this to owners, right? I talked in the beginning about, the owners who were like, stop, 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 stop. He looks uncomfortable, right? And they're trying to build trust that way. Or the owners were like, no, 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 sit, sit, right? So those customers need to hear things like, we're going to calm them down. We're going to keep them calm. We're going to help them be comfortable with it. We're going to teach them how to cooperate with us, let them know what we need, help them along, right? And so when we use terms like calm, comfortable, and cooperative, part of why I do that is to help us all remember that we need to be able to communicate this to our owners. And that is much easier for owners to understand. Once I start talking about counterconditioning and desensitization, it turns into technobabble. And sometimes technobabble turns into, well, I read an article once and I was online and what they said to do was, and it comes down to like very specific protocols that would work for a very specific dog or would work for 90% of the dogs, but not the one you have in front of you, and you end up arguing with people about, no, that's not going to work for him. Let me tell you why. Now, I like to put things in plain speak, just layman's terms, because I do find it helpful. But counterconditioning and desensitization are really, really excellent tools. Not necessarily something that you should be doing without a trainer's help, right? And this is kind of where we should all kind of stay in our lane, do the things that we're best at, right? So if you have a dog that needs a significant amount of help, that's a great time to say, hey, I know a trainer, blah, 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 this person, I think that would be great for you guys to work on this. And then, maybe the trainer can meet you here and we can work a little bit on it after the end of a work day, right? Or like sometime when there aren't a huge amount of dogs around. So there are definitely times where counterconditioning and desensitization are necessary and awesome, but there are so many ways to go about it. But at its core, it's about teaching the dogs to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative. Because again, we don't want dogs who are scared. We also, in a grooming setting, don't want dogs that are super excited. Now, if we were trying to teach a dog to not be afraid of people, we might allow super excited, right? Like, hey, now he's super excited to see kids. That's great. As long as he can still listen to me and he doesn't charge over and knock people down, right? But we don't want them super excited about grooming. Grooming is a calm activity. Grooming is sharp tools next to faces, next to feet, next to bums, right? We don't want any nicks. So when we talk about calm, comfortable, and cooperative and keeping them comfortable, that's kind of where we're teaching them that this is safe. Our weekly action step this week is I want you to start getting your hands on dogs, even if it's your own dog at home. Play along, right? But if you're at work and you're at an animal hospital or a doggy daycare or a grooming shop, get your hands on dogs and start feeling for feeling for a relaxed body, watching for relaxed faces. But put your hand on and just kind of feel if you press in a little bit. Is that dog stiff or is that dog loose? Because that's really part of calm, comfortable, and cooperative. We want them to be able to be loose, and we want to start being able to watch for it and be able to help them get back to it if they get scared. But that's your weekly action step this week. Have a great week and stay curious. If you'd like to talk to me, you can find me through my grooming and training business, happycrittersdogtraining.com, my email, chrissy@happycritters.net, and through the Creating Great Grooming Dogs Facebook page. And we have these awesome devices in our pockets that allow us to do live video with each other. I can help you with the dog on your table. We can set up live lessons, and you may be surprised at how much we can get accomplished together via video. If you're ready to go beyond the podcast, and I hope you do, I've made it really easy for you. If you go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step, you'll see all of the options. There's the Scholar Lounge community, there's the Modern Grooming Professional certification, there's Master Canine Stylist and Professional Canine Stylist diploma testings, there's the Behavior Lab for coaching and private one-on-one sessions with me, and of course the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program. So go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step.